All right, everyone, welcome back. We have another great installment here of the Pioneers and Builders and Jacksonville podcast, and some of us like to call that PB and Jacks. Great episode. I've got a gentleman here by the name of Ike Sherlock with me. Ike's the CEO of Airvan Inc. here in Jacksonville, Florida. We met at a coffee meetup not too long ago. Loved your story, Ike. Super glad that you're here and you're willing to share that with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Before we get too deep, I got to say that it's a beautiful suit.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Looking sharp. Yeah, for everybody that's hopefully watching, they'll see it. Everybody that's listening, I just want them to know you came to play with the suit game today.
Very good.
Well, thanks for being here. You and I chatted when we were at Biddy and Bo's over in San Marco, and you are the CEO of Airvan Inc., which, as you explained to me, we've got warehouses and trucks, and it's a whole operation. And for those who aren't familiar with logistics in general, or might be and just aren't familiar with the company, would love to start there. Can you help us better understand who you are and what the company does, and kind of take it from there?
Yeah, great. Airvan is based here in Jacksonville, and we have multiple verticals in the supply chain. So one of the verticals is final mile delivery. So if you order a sofa from Haverty's or a 85-inch TV from Best Buy or a patio set, and two guys in a box truck with lift gate show up and bring it into your house, that's what we do. We're also customs bonded. So a lot of things come in under the watchful eye of customs, and we hold it and store it, and they check it out, make sure it's okay to release to the clients. We also do warehousing, traditional warehousing, public warehousing, and we're truckers and brokerage as well. So what that means is the containers you see at Blunt Island or at Talleyrand, we send our trucks in to pick up those containers. We bring that product over to the warehouses. We have 4 warehouses in town, and offload it, inventory it for the clients, and then send it to the final user, whether it be a distribution center or manufacturer or anything like that. So a little bit of everything in the supply chain. Third-party logistics means that we cover it from start to finish.
Well, thank you for that. So on the 3PL front, third-party logistics, that includes, and it doesn't mean that Airvans includes all of this, but does that typically include trucking and rail and maritime, or is there a different funnel that goes into when somebody says that they're part of a 3PL company?
Yeah, so 3PL, typically what that means is I'm a third party holding other clients. So we don't own any of the product that we house. It's other clients. So if a manufacturer or distributor doesn't want the headaches of having their own building, their own forklifts, their own trucks, their own people, they outsource that to me. Okay. So we have, over 100 accounts of different product in our warehouses that other people own, and they pay us to unload, inventory, load, ship.
And what is the benefit of a company offloading that responsibility to a third party?
Oh, it's a huge benefit. The flexibility is very attractive to folks. If you're going to you think you're going to need 50,000 square feet of product in Jacksonville for some reason, maybe you're distributing into the state of Florida and you need 50,000 square feet in Jacksonville so you can do just-in-time deliveries throughout the state of Florida. You would have to find a 50,000 square foot building. You would have to lease that building. You would have to hire people. You would have to put infrastructure in. You'd have to put IT in. You'd have to buy forklifts. You'd have to hire managers. You have to hire all that stuff. If you want to do trucking, that's even deeper. Say that you miscalculated and you don't need 50,000 square feet. You actually only need 30,000 square feet. You're paying for 50,000 square feet. So if you use a third party, you come to me and say, I think I need 50,000 square feet. I'm not sure, but I'm going to give you a pallet rate. And, if you need 50,000 square feet, you need 30,000 square feet, you're not taking down that warehouse space. You're not hiring those people. You're not binding that insurance coverage. You're not doing any of that. I'm doing all of that and handling your product. If you have a seasonal product, you have a product that sells a ton during the summer and nothing during the fall, we can, ebb and flow with you, and you're not paying for extra space. You're just paying for what you use.
Okay. No, that makes a ton of sense. The main point that you were making is whether they need 10,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet, whatever the warehouse is that they have that they've paid for and now they're paying rent for, they have to pay for the whole thing. And whereas for you, you might have a 100,000 square foot warehouse and you might give them 30,000 square feet of it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As you were explaining all the different things that Airvan does, you were talking about final mile delivery. For those who may not know, what is final mile compared to, let's say, first mile, or the 99% of the trip that leads to the final mile?
Like I said earlier, you order that 85-inch TV from Best Buy, you go onto the website, you put it in, you choose it, you select it, you pay for it. It says it's going to be delivered in 2 or 3 days. Best Buy is not delivering that. They're contracting freight forwarders, or contracting me to deliver it. So that product's actually going to go on my truck. We'll schedule your delivery. We'll be there, between 8 and 10 Wednesday morning, and we'll physically show up and deliver that TV.
I've always wanted to ask somebody this. You seem like the perfect person. Why is it like we'll be there from 8 to 12? Why is the...
Great question. Our trucks, when they go out in the mornings, they'll average 20 to 25 stops. So, to be profitable and to maximize the utilization of the truck and equipment and manpower, we're optimizing that route. So you're one of 22 stops. So we've come a long way in technology. We have optimizers. We have GPS. We know exactly where the delivery truck is. We know exactly what they're doing. They're updating on their phones their stops and deliveries. So we can start narrowing it down for you and calling you and saying, hey, look, they're going to be there in 30 minutes. They're in the neighborhood. They'll be in there in 15 minutes, that kind of stuff.
I just want to go on record and say, when somebody says that they'll be there from 8 to 12, I'm never on the 8 side. I'm always always in like the 11 to 12. Just how it works out, no matter what side of town I live on. Well, thank you for clearing that up. That's great. When we had last spoke, you and I had got on a real big tangent about the importance of logistics in Jacksonville and how important the port is here. We even got into a little bit about how important the port is in Savannah as well. Do you mind kind of walking through Jacksonville's size, ranking, importance as it pertains to logistics, and why Jacksonville is this hub that really controls the flow of things for the most part, the Southeast United States?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's super, super important to know, if you live in Duval County, you live in St. Johns County, you live in the surrounding areas, Jacksport is the driving factor for economic development in this part of the country. Jacksport drives so much product and so much revenue into our city and our community. It's not even close. They're far and away the leaders in economic development. So the chamber, Jacks USA, I mean, the economic development focus that we have in this community is, I mean, it's world class. It really is. Jacksport, chamber, I mean, they're creating jobs, creating revenue, creating opportunity. Jacksport has developed itself under Eric Green's leadership in the last few years we're the number one container port in the state of Florida now.
Wow.
We did not have direct European sailings for years. We have 3 a week now. So the growth, the development, the infrastructure development has been outstanding. Our governor and the folks in Tallahassee have supported with funding. There's 14 ports in the state of Florida, and we share funding with all those. But the folks in Tallahassee, the folks here in Duval County recognize and realize the value proposition of investing in our port. So that's not just deepening the harbor. That's improving the crane capacity, improving the docks, improving the technology. They do all of that. And it is an economic engine, unparalleled.
For people who think Jacksonville and they think healthcare, mortgage, finance, I think they're gonna what you just said is gonna come in a little bit of a shock with it. There's a number one driver of workforce development. Maybe people just drive over the Dames Point and they just see the container operation and they don't think anything of it. But can you expand a little bit on how robust the operation is here in Jacksonville?
Oh, there's all those thousands of containers as you drive over the Dames Point. Just look down and just attach dollar signs and in revenue to every one of them. Job creation, the development of the port. Southeast Toyota's building a huge facility at Blunt Island. SSA is expanded their operations. We have the really fantastic Ro-Ro operations. That's roll on, roll off for the cars, vehicles. We do a lot of vehicles. I don't do that in my vertical, but vehicles are a huge part of what we do at Jacksport.
Okay. I feel like we're on an education tangent, so I'll ask you one more thing that may pique the curiosity and the interest of some people who are listening. And I know it was something that certainly had a lot of interest in learning, and that is how the supply chain and logistics industry became so popular, and they were printing money during the pandemic. And then in the past few years, there's been kind of a flip, and the freight world has been in a little bit of a hurt. Can you walk through how that happens? And I'm sure technology has some sort of a play here, but I know people were staying at home during the pandemic. They were ordering things to their homes like crazy. It was hard to keep things in stock, and it was a whirlwind, right? And then since things have settled, it seems that the world of logistics is going through an adjustment. Can you walk through why that is?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like so long ago, and I guess now it was so
5 years.
the global pandemic basically shut us down. Not my vertical, warehouse workers, port workers, truck drivers, we were essential workers. I did not stay home one day during the global pandemic. That's not my experience. All my friends, all my family, that's their experience. We went to work every day. The biggest difference for us was there was no traffic on the roads. It was really nice, pleasant drive to work. So
Yeah.
really quick. So yeah, the global pandemic shut us down. We were inside with time on our hands and computers at our fingertips, and we ordered stuff like crazy, and we spent money like crazy. And then we decided to upgrade our homes, and we decided to expand offices. We've made a lot of decisions, right? The supply chain could not keep up with that. So you flash back 4 or 5 years ago to the 100+ container ships off the West Coast not being able to get into port and get unloaded.
I do remember that.
They were able to get into port and get unloaded. There wasn't truckers. There weren't enough truckers to pick up the product. There weren't enough warehouses to handle the product. So that kink in the chain didn't stop people from ordering. Stuff just kept coming. For the East Coast, it was a boon because a lot of clients, especially large shippers, retailers, decided to shift a lot of their shipping to the East Coast, where they had traditionally come in. If a large shipper traditionally had 80% coming into the West Coast from Asia and then 20% going around through the Panama Canal going to the East Coast, now they're going maybe 50-50, or maybe they're even going 40 to the West Coast and 60 to the East Coast. Changing those supply chains is a big deal. It takes a long time, and you don't typically change them back. So we picked up a lot of port work on the East Coast that never has gone back to the West Coast. So that was a really a big thing for us. As the supply chain started evening out, we had not enough truckers to do all of the loads to move all that product. As we finally got the ships unloaded and got the warehouses full, there wasn't enough truckers. For years, there's been a trucker shortage in our country. So if there's a lot more loads than truckers, then the rates go up because the truckers can capitalize on that and, ask for more than they typically would because, supply and demand. So it was called the gold rush. We had a couple of years where it was the best time in the history of the world to be a freight broker or a truck driver. We had record numbers of DOT numbers issued. So that means truck drivers who were company drivers were able to buy their own trucks and launch their own businesses. That was not sustainable because the rates doubled, tripled, and that revenue is not sustainable. Equipment, especially used equipment, new equipment, skyrocketed in price. So people bought equipment for too much, and they had unrealistic expectations on revenue. And for a couple of years, it was fantastic. When that corrected, and when something's not sustainable in the economy, it always corrects. When that corrected, it corrected hard. My eco friendly.
Yeah.
That corrected, it corrected hard, and the rates dumped. So for the last couple of years, we've had all-time low rates, and a lot of those truckers gave up their trucks, gave up their DOT numbers, and went back to being company drivers. So best time in the world to be a truck driver, followed by the worst time in the world to be a truck driver.
Is that mellowing out a little bit?
It is starting to come back. We're starting to see a strengthening of rates. The tariff situation has been interesting. We are seeing warehouse capacity continue to be stretched. We're building product. And there's more loads in the system, so that it was a lot more loads than drivers, and then it was a lot more drivers than loads. Now it's starting to come back. It's the industry, especially on the transportation side, is very sick.
With you being a 3PL and having warehousing and trucking and all these different verticals, is it fair to say that you're protecting yourself against these rises and falls of the freight market?
That's exactly why we do this. We have the warehousing, we have the trucking. Typically, macroeconomics, one of them is great and booming, one of them is not great. And so what we believe is if we can read the tea leaves and react before the market changes, we always have something that's going gangbusters and doing very well. We always have something that's slower that we can work on and fine tune and develop and invest in. But the most important thing is we always have cash flow. And that makes my bankers happy.
How much of maybe it's the predictors, maybe it's the tea leaves, maybe it's people getting lifetime feedback on where their deliveries are and whatnot, but how much in 2025 is technology not only playing a part, but this buzzword of AI is just getting thrown out there like crazy. How much of that is being incorporated into freight businesses, including Airvan, and how much of technology are you guys using to keep your business at its peak levels?
Well, I mean, when people ask me about the technology in my vertical, in my industry, I just remind them of even 10 or 12 years ago, not long ago. If you ordered something online, it's probably unusual that you were computer savvy enough to actually order something online. It was probably cumbersome and clunky to pay for it or find it or pay for it, whatever. You probably paid shipping and handling charges, and you probably waited a week or two or more for it to be delivered. Now, golly day, think about the advances in technology and think about the total disruption of that. Now you order something on your phone. It's super easy to do. It's super easy to pay for. And you're a little annoyed if you don't get it this afternoon. Or tomorrow at the latest. I ordered vitamins yesterday morning. Why aren't they at my doorstep right now? Also, when they arrive at your doorstep, you get a notice on your phone, a picture. It's been delivered. to come from where we were to where we are in that short amount of time, in a decade, and time is nothing. It's pretty astounding the way our vertical has embraced technology and utilized technology.
Yeah, you bring up such an excellent point, because now the hamster wheel's turning, and I think about Amazon Prime, how that really changed the game, and you can now buy things with just a click. You don't even have to
Yeah,
go through like the billing and the pay cycles and stuff like that. It's saved, right? And then you're right, people come drop it off at your door and they take a picture. But now, speaking of technology, now you've got a Ring camera that watches them do it, so there's actually like proof that it was delivered.
mm-hmm.
And I can't even imagine the levels, the layers of integration that go into stuff like that. I could see Ring and these delivery drivers having some kind of a partnership down the road. I don't know how that would work, but it seems more and more people are having these cameras put on their front
Sure.
doors. And
Well, and even Uber and Uber Eats. I mean, at the beginning of our show, if you and I had ordered Chick-fil-A, we
it'd
would
be
have
here.
it before the show's over. I
Yeah,
mean, that's crazy.
that's a
That's
really good
crazy.
point too. It is crazy.
Yeah. It seems normal because it is normal. But if
Yep.
you think back 10 years ago, it's lunacy.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've hit the nail on the head there. I had a thought about, yes, the Amazon Prime model. It seems like there was some heavy adoption. Like some of the companies that leaned into it. I think Walmart has Walmart Plus now, and Best Buy really got into the online vertical as well. It seems like that it was adapt or die as that pertained. And then we had a company here locally, Steinmart, who really stuck to their traditional like brick and mortar stores. Like I know that they had an online presence, but that's not what they were touting. Jacksonville lost a marquee because of it, right? Steinmart was a big presence downtown, and it was a big name for us. And um, I guess their non-willingness to conform to present day, I think that ended up killing them in the pandemic, because nobody was getting a chance dying to go to Steinmart.
Yeah. It's you can look at Steinmart, you could look at Blockbuster, you can look at any of the famous case studies. Business is exciting. Just business is exciting because, you know, if you're doing it right, it's never the same 2 days in a row.
That's really good. So speaking of business and nothing's the same 2 days in a row. Airvan, you're at, correct me if I'm wrong, you're at 4 warehouses.
Yep.
It wasn't always like that.
No.
So I would like to walk through the evolution of it, especially for people who are learning about Airvan for the first time by tuning into this. How did Airvan get started? How did you get involved? Where was it at when you kind of stepped in? And can you walk through the evolution of how it's gotten to where it is now?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Airvan actually was a air delivery franchise in the 1950s. It goes
Oh, you
way
go
back to
back.
that. Guys going to the airport to pick up freight and deliver it. That was what Airvan was. And funny, we still do that, but not much, or not much compared to what else we do. So we had that franchise. The actual franchisor went out of business. We just kept the name, and it rocked on for years. Very small. They, I guess, 15 years ago, maybe got into the final mile delivery business, working for freight forwarders, like I was talking about Best Buy and other companies like that deliver product to people's homes and people's businesses, pallets of stuff or one piece of stuff, similar to LTL business, the less than load business, but really with more of a white glove feel, right? So, and that rocked along for several years. And that was really all we did. We did that customs bonded, we did the final mile, we did a little warehousing, we did a little trucking, but not much and not very well. I was running a brokerage and non-asset based brokerage and a trucking company through the gold rush.
Mm.
Knew that the tides were turning and it was going to become a great time to be a warehouser and a really, really challenging time to be a broker or a trucker. I had known the owner of this company, Airvan, probably a decade. He lives out of state. He's a guy that I He owns multiple businesses. Airvan, he was kind of an absentee owner from Airvan. It was kind of just a small concern for him. But he's a guy that I used to call and ask for advice, and ask. He was a mentor. And I would call him if I had an issue and, hey, look, this is my side of three sides of a story. What would you do? Give me something to think about with this customer or this employee or whatever. So I called him to ask him about, how to change my business and kind of start pivoting into the warehousing side. And he said, I won't give you any advice. I'd like to hire you. Because really want to start focusing on developing Airvan. And we feel like the Jacksonville market's going to be a good place. And Airvan's not doing very well. I wasn't really looking for a job, but I was intrigued. I asked him for the full financial package, got it, read it over a weekend, called him on Monday and said, hey, this is really bad. I must be missing something. And he's like, no, you're not missing anything. So it was a restart. And we, the owner and I, we read books together and talk about the books. And we read Built to Last. And the theory was if we focus on culture and we build a culture where people are supported and people have the tools to do the job and people have a safe environment to work in and people are taken care of and appreciated, if we build the culture and then we build processes and procedures, and then and only then we have something valuable to start selling to clients. So it's going to be a long uphill climb. So 2023, that's what we did. We built culture. We got the right people in. We got offered the wrong people to our competitors. Built some processes and procedures. The team built processes and procedures. And then we started, offering that to the market. So we were able to do two large acquisitions, competitors that we liked and respected and competed against. We were able to buy two of those companies in 24. Very, very excited, bought some property, bought the book of business. But more importantly, we were able to bring, for both companies, we were able to bring 100% of the associates on board with us. With their original hire dates, and we're able to improve their benefits.
Wow.
Because they were successful businesses already. And that's because of the people. That's because we had very talented people. And now they're Airvan associates. So we've grown the business 135% in 1 year. We went from, we were able to turn the corner and have all black P&Ls for 24. Really exciting.
That's incredible.
Yeah. All black P&Ls so far. 2 months in 25, and we're forecasted to have a really, really strong year with the growth we've experienced. So we really transitioned from having a focus on a single vertical to becoming a warehouse company that has trucks, true 3PL offerings. And we just didn't have that before.
I think that's great. Thank you for that. You touched on something that I've learned over the years has a different meaning to different people. When you said you built a culture, when you set out to make sure that you were bringing in the right talent with the right attitudes and the right vision, the right buy-in, what was that for you when you say, like, we wanted to build a culture? Some people like people who are just having on switch all day. Some people like to build a team full of introverts. Some people like to build a team full of readers. Some people like to build a team full of extroverts. What was important to you guys when you said, hey, this is going to be the Airvan culture. This is what we want to embody?
Well, most of the talent was here. They were just underutilized or not challenged or didn't have the tools they needed to really do the job. And that takes investment. And that takes commitment from ownership. So I really credit the commitment from ownership to continue to make investments in the company. A smart owner with a vision to have something that's built to last, build something that outlast him, have that vision, really is focused on continually reinvesting in talent, in products and technology and equipment. So I really credit the ownership a lot with that. The culture is really, we want to have a safe culture. We want to have people where people feel valued, recognized, have a voice. My management style is very collaborative. I tell everybody I have lots of ideas. Most of them are bad, and I need people to tell me that. And when I come in with an idea, it is not baked. I need everybody's input to kind of bake that cake. And that idea is going to transition and change some. And we'll decide if it's a good idea. And if it becomes a good idea, we'll implement it. If we decide it's a bad idea, we'll put it on the pile. And if we think it's a good idea and it doesn't work, we'll stop doing it. But the personality types, we have customer service people, we have truck drivers, we have warehouse people. We have all different types of people working in all these different verticals. They all have different personality types that make them very effective in those roles. So we do a predictive index. We do personality testing before we offer a position to a person. We know the personality types that's a great analyst. We know the personality types that's a great truck driver. We know the personality types that are great warehouse associates. If we interview a person and we love them and think that they'll be a fun person to work with and have come to work every day with a positive attitude, want to work hard and smile, and take care of our customers and take care of each other, and we give that personality test and they're interviewing for something that's not going to fit, we'll put them in a different role. It's the right seat on the bus, whatever you want to say. We really want to hire for attitude and then train. But, I am not a detail-oriented person. I'm not a proofreader. I would be the worst customer service person we ever had. I would get fired in 2 weeks. It would just be terrible. My personality type, when we do the predictive index, is just opposite of a customer service person. So if I was interviewing, we wouldn't hire me for a customer service role. We'd hire me for something else.
That makes sense. I mean, at least you're self-aware about it. I've spoken to CEOs who think that they can do every role in their company at the highest level.
No. I'm on a DISC assessment. I'm a D plus, and there's only 3% of the people in the world that are D pluses, and typically we're a bit much for everybody. So I really have to be aware and really have to tone it down. And I'm incredibly impatient, and that can come across really negatively if I'm not careful in watching myself.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of you, I know that you owned your own company, and I know you've been here for a couple of years, but back to the beginning, at what point was this industry attractive to you? Why did you decide to make the transportation and logistics and warehousing business your home?
Like I've said it before, I just needed a job. I was a musician all through college, and for 10 years, I was in a band. I'm sure I looked like a guy who had hair on my waist and lived in a van down by the river, but I really did, actually. So I went through 4 years of college playing bars, frat parties, nightclubs, fields, whatever, 3 or 4 nights a week. Took the LSAT, got accepted to law school the same week the band got signed. So I ran away with the circus and lived in a van, toured the Southeast and played music for 6 years. And it was a great way to grow up, great friends, great experience. That ended up ending, and I got married. And my wife got a scholarship to go to Auburn in Alabama. And I needed a job in a college town. And I had no appreciable skills other than I can, tune a bass and put on an eyeliner in the back of a moving van. That doesn't really translate well in the job market. So I was interviewing in different places, and I took a job as a night dispatcher, and I had no idea what that was. All I knew was they hired me. And I was a dispatcher in a trucking company, and it happened to be a startup. And I've always been a curious person, and I was bored. It was shift work. I was working 3 nights on, 4 nights off, 4 nights on, 3 nights off, 12-hour shifts. I'd never not worked 7 days a week. And, anybody I knew in Auburn was in school. So I just would stay after my shift and make people teach me stuff, how do you lease a truck in safety? How do you do the safety files? How do you do the DQ files? How do we recruit people? How do we change a truck tire? So I was bored and fascinated with the industry because I never even knew anything about trucks or trucking, never considered it, and just started learning everything. They put me in a management program. I had no desire to be in a management program. I was just happy to come to work. But they put me in a management program, and then I became a startup manager. So I would go into a startup location. I would work with a contractor to build a facility, and I would hire and train everybody from the custodian down to the terminal manager. And then I would move on to the next startup. So that's how I started in trucking. Great company.
Yeah. That's an awesome story. A lot of hard work, perseverance, and a lot of curiosity, which I think
Yeah.
is probably the most important thing. What brought you guys to Jax
I
from Auburn?
wanted to learn about I was work with this company all over the place. I was in DC working in the Northeast for 3 or 4 years, but the last stop at that company and right outside DC in Northern Virginia. I had met the Grimes companies when I was doing a startup here in Jacksonville 4 years prior. And I always wanted to learn warehousing. I always wanted to learn what happened when we bumped those docks. And so the company I was working with was acquired by equity a couple of times. It was not going well for the company. So I reached out to the Grimes companies, reached out to Tommy Grimes and said, hey, look, I'd love to learn warehousing from you. And he said, well, come down here and run our trucks for us and we'll teach you warehousing. So that's how I got into the 3PL world. I worked for Grimes for 10 years, I guess. Took that through a transaction. That was my first merger and acquisition. We were on the sell side. We sold another great company, and I worked for those guys for a couple of years.
Well, all right. Well, in the spirit of Jacksonville and this being a Jacksonville-based podcast, what would you say is something Jacksonville's doing really well as it pertains to the industry?
Infrastructure and development. I mean, Florida DOT is, in my estimations, the best DOT in the universe. If you drive up the East Coast and see the change in roads, if you don't believe me, Florida DOT is a fantastic job. They're ahead of the curve. They're building roads where they need to be in 10 years. The development of Jacksport. I mean, the ability for us to 10 years ago start this project to really run hard and become the largest container port in Florida. Our local government, the Chamber of Commerce, Jax USA, all of the industry, all of the fintech, all of the insurance, all of the financial services that they're bringing into Jacksonville. I mean, that business development piece is just, we're so fortunate to be here. We're so fortunate to be here in Jacksonville.
I agree. I would think we're very clearly going through a revitalization here in Jacksonville. For the first time, been here 18 years as of last month. And so 2025's the first time I've seen this many cranes in the air. Obviously we get the Stadium of the Future. We've got the UF grad campus going on, among a slew of things. Is there anything about what is very clearly about to be this accelerated growth? Is there anything about it that concerns you? Could be the infrastructure side. Could be that we don't have enough to keep up with. Maybe that we'd have to bring more people into the city to help keep the workforce development where it's supposed to be. But is there anything top of mind that concerns you a little bit?
I mean, my role is to keep eyes downfield. I think labor is going to be an issue for everybody in every industry. The baby boomers are aging out, retiring, leaving the workforce. 20 years ago, we stopped having kids. So the birth rate dropped steeply 22 years ago. So there's nobody to replace those boomers that are aging out. So I think in all industries, in all places, all verticals, we're going to start seeing a real constraint of labor. So it's important to us, our marketing is as much to attract talent as it is to attract clients. We want to be a company that people want to work for. We want to be a company that has great retention because people never want to leave. And I think in my role and people like me, I think we should be thinking about the labor issue.
Really good point. I took a sociology class at Florida State, and we were talking about this exact same thing, and it was in a graph form, so it was really visual, and it showed the baby boomer generation. What happened was there was never going to be enough jobs to satisfy that level of growth when it happened, and so there had to be a big adjustment, big labor adjustment, big market adjustment. So all these different jobs were created, and in coordination with like the Industrial Revolution and whatnot. And they were talking about that these companies, the model was, we're going to sell what we make. So we're going to make it, then we're going to sell it. And then we trot along. We're talking about how technology has changed things and how the world works in 2025. But now we're in this model of we now make what we sell. So you put the order in, then we'll make it. And so there's been a shift in that. And I think AI is going to replace a lot of repeatable tasks and functions, and maybe that'll help bridge the gap. But in the labor force development, like I said, was a steep line in terms of people in the workforce. And it stayed like that. And now we're going. And it's going to be like that for a while. And the reason it was so alarming is because not only is the birth rate drop, there's no indication that it's going to go back up. So we're going to drop and then have a lull, and it's going to be a multi-generation adjustment that we're going to have to make as a society. So I'm actually glad you brought that up. That's an amazing point. Kind of want to leave with this open-ended. What can I do? What can Jacksonville do? What can people listening to this do to support Airvan? What should they keep an eye out for? How can we help you guys grow and continue to be a staple here in Northeast Florida?
Well, that's a great question. We believe that supporting the community, I'll talk just my transportation logistics vertical. We believe supporting the community is key. If it's good for Jacksonville, it's good for Duval County, it's good for Northeast Florida, it's good for Airvan. So I've got some great competitors here in town, and if somebody is coming to Jacksonville to potentially distribute product out of Jacksonville, say, if they don't choose me, I hope they choose someone else in Jacksonville, because, like I said, we've got some great providers. My competitors are good competitors. And I want them to come to Jacksonville. I want them to stay in Jacksonville, because high tide raises all ships. If they choose to leave Jacksonville or not give Jacksonville a chance, and they go to Savannah or Miami or Tampa, we'll never see them again. We'll just never see them again. It's hard to put down a supply chain and pick it up and move it to another city. If they put down the supply chain here in Jacksonville, we're going to keep it. So that's good. There's an organization that we work with called Talon, TALON, the Transportation Logistics Organization Network, talonjax.com. There's 9 different supply chain organizations and groups. We range from women in transportation to minority in transportation to Propeller Club to the TC Jacks, the truckers. All of the 9 organizations come together to do events. We do a sock drive for the homeless every year. April 24th, we're going to be doing a dinner, a Talon dinner. It's going to be in coordination with an organization called CRAC, which is the Propeller Club. It's a Southeastern conference. So all of these Propeller Club supply chain leaders from all over the Southeast are going to be in town for a conference. They're going to attend the Talon conference. We don't know of any other cities, especially port cities, where there's the camaraderie and community and all of these different clubs working together for common goals and common good. And we want to put on that conference that night, that presentation and dinner, and them to hopefully say, this is a pretty cool idea, and take it back to their cities and start getting the Propeller Club people and the truckers in a room together. And that's what we do with Talon. We get these people together that are in the same vertical but might not be aligned with each other. And the TC Jacks truckers are on the port every day. Now they're connected to people who work at the port, like physically connected, personally connected. They can do business together. They can support each other and help each other. So I think the message is for all of us and Talon and all this in my vertical is, collaboration and supporting each other, good competition, fair competition. Like I said, if the client comes down and they don't select me, I hope they select one of my competitors, and I hope that that competitor does a great job with them because it's good for all of us if his business develops and grows.
It's a really healthy point of view. I commend you. Not everybody feels that way. It's a little business can be selfish. So, but I'm with you. Anything that we can do to move Jacksonville forward is a win for all of us. I appreciate that you have that viewpoint. What did we miss? What did we not cover? What is there? What should the people know?
I don't know. It's your show.
I never know, if there's a particular piece of the pie that you want to make sure that people are knowing of Airvan and Ike Sherlock. So if there's nothing there, I want to make sure that I give us room to come back down the road. Yeah. When the market flips again and it's gangbusters, or maybe we have our own version of the Roaring 20s, and you're underwater because you're so busy you can't think straight. I want to be able to come back and talk about what it was like to deal with that kind of a market correction. Yeah. In obviously a positive way, and talk about the growth of Airvan and how you're going to continue to expand and be a staple in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, we just want to offer services that our clients need. We have the trucking, we have the warehousing, we have the final mile, we have the we can eliminate a lot of headaches and honestly drive value to clients by them electing multiple services with us. If I'm doing the trucking and I'm doing the warehousing, you don't have to coordinate with two different vendors and coordinate those delivery times or anything. You just give me the pickup order. I take care of the rest. And there's a lot of value in that because it saves a lot of time for the clients. It saves a lot of concern for the clients. So we want to continue to offer services our clients need. We're going to be probably sometime this year moving into more kitting and reconfiguring of product for our clients. We don't do much of that currently. We'd like to do that. We feel like that's going to be a value add for the clients where they don't have to move stuff out of our warehouse to have it reconfigured when they just do it right there. I think that's going to be really important. We feel like as trucking continues to improve, we want to be ahead of that curve. We want to be adding the right equipment, adding the right drivers, adding the right technology, so we're ahead of it. So when the market shifts and it goes from warehousing and trucking to trucking and warehousing, that we're ready to capitalize on that. Right now, I would tell you I'm a warehouse guy with some trucks. If things go the way we think it's going to go this time next year, I'm going to tell you I'm a trucker with a warehouse. So once again, if we can stay ahead of the curve and always kind of play to the strength, we have cash flow.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Where can people find you?
The talonjacks.com.
Okay. I'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Yeah, the talonjacks.com. Basically, that's the only thing is it's a calendar. And those 9 supply chain groups, they upload their events to that calendar. And then if you go on a day and click on that event, it takes you straight to their website so you can register for the event. So we feel that's really important. And the 24th, we'd love for everybody to buy a ticket and come to dinner with us.
Yep. I'll make sure all that's in the notes too. Needless to say, people who are in the industry and people who are trying to get ahead in the industry and meet people, the Talon Jacks website is a really good place for them to find networking events and mingle and shake hands and ask questions and whatnot. So we're going to make sure that as many people as possible go to that and realize that that's a resource that they need to securely keep in their back pocket.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This conversation was great. I can't wait for everybody to learn more about what you're doing and get excited about what Jacksonville is doing both now and in the coming years.
Appreciate you. Appreciate PB and Jack.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one.